Good afternoon to everyone. Wonderful to see such enthusiasm for alternative economies that will benefit the people, planet, and be sustainable at the same time. I want to start with saying that the climate change is a direct result of a disrespect for the indigenous people's culture. And the irony that we're facing today, that although they are the ones protecting the forest, managing and stewarding this forest free of charge, no one is paying them for these services, yet they have been the most impoverished as a result of taking away their land rights, their trees, and deforestation. And so with that, I would like to explain why we chose to work with Orang Asli. They are an indigenous peoples group in West Malaysia. They are the poorest of the poor in the Malaysian context. And so let me bring you towards this case study of this community that we work with and how we set up a social enterprise or community enterprise, to be more precise. It started off with a grant. It was grant driven initially, but it's now moving towards a community enterprise as an SSE model. The context of this village is there are 50 families in this village of the Jakun tribe, ethnic group, and they live in semi-forested areas. Up till 2008, they were still hunters and gatherers. Over the years, all palm, rubber trees have been coming in. However, with the logging of their forests and deforestation, it has caused a loss of their natural resources. They've lost their food sources, their medicines, and herbs and plants that they get from the forest. They've lost the building material. And also probably less known is that their total life savings and their bank is in the forest has also been lost. And secondly, as a result of that loss of natural resources, they are also facing another issue because now they are having to adapt to the market economy very, very quickly. Unfortunately, they don't have enough money because they don't have enough food from the forest. They have to go and buy food from the supermarkets. And because they are not well educated, they don't have the ability to earn enough to buy adequate nutrition. That's on the consumption level. But on the production level, they also face another huge challenge. They do not have the capital for efficient production and to be competitive. They can't buy machines, equipment to be efficient. And secondly, they also do not have access to social networks and in particular fair markets. And as a result of it, there is this deep sense of helplessness and hopelessness in many of these communities. They're stuck in a position where they cannot go backwards to their traditional life, and neither can they go forward in this new economy of this cash market economy. And thirdly, the other problem that they're facing is that the state is trying to intervene with development policies, but these development policies fails to recognize that the Orang Asli are forest people. They regard them instead as kampong people or village settlers, where they're just given a piece of land to build a house, a little piece of land to do some farming, and that would be adequate. But the Orang Asli are forest people, they are indigenous. And therefore, the forest is part of their identity and culture. And if you remove the forest from their lives, a part of their identity and soul is missing. And so in this context of deforestation, introduction of market economy, and inappropriate state development policies, the Orang Aslis are left in a very, very vulnerable position. And so it is in this backdrop that we needed to find solutions. And so as a result of this diminished natural resources, loss of their forests, food sources, they are also facing these other multiple dimensions of poverty: low income, lack of access to adequate housing, education, health, low literacy rates, and a fragmented community. Let me just show you some pictures. One of the things that they also suffer very deeply from is whereas the forest is being logged, their waters get silted and contaminated either through pesticides that are being used for oil palm. And this once pristine river was a source of drinking water for them has now become murky and unsafe to drink. But that's the situation that they're locked into. And so in this, we needed to find a solution. So we started with what we did with this community of 50 families, we gave some seeds to 10 families, but one particular family did quite well. And then they were able to sell it locally and get a decent income. And from there, the conversation grew so that they would like to scale this up and expand their market. So from that, various discussions, they got together, they identified 14 participants to start the farm and a 2-acre piece of land. And that's the picture that you see now. So initially we provided some seed capital to get it going, to clear the land, buy the seedlings, the fertilizers and the training, teaching them organic farming methods. And within 4 to 5 months, they got their first harvest. And here it is. They are now packing and processing. They have to learn how to do post-harvest. They have to understand markets. But this was the second major challenge. They had learned the technology. Now they were facing how, at this scale, how do we access fair markets? And so we wanted to build a model in building fair businesses for a fair society where the Asli themselves would share in the profits of the supply chain. Our survey showed that the products that they sold in the market through the middleman indicated that they only captured 15% of the final retail price. However, with this method, we were able to help them capture 40% of the value chain price. And also in this model that they would be owners of their own farms, they would be owner workers as it were, and that there would be a certain percentage that we will plow back into their own community. And so in the shaping of this model, these are some of the principles that we were in discussion and needed to be formulated in a more concrete way and developed and shaped as we went along. So what has happened in December 2015 to May 2020, just over 4 years, they have learned to produce 30 types of vegetables and 10 different types of traditional herbs. The harvest has increased now from 300 kg at the initial stages. Now we're averaging about 2,000 kg a month on 3 acres of land. Farmers' income have increased from 500 ringgit or US 125 to now up to US 500. So they've been able to double, triple their incomes through this enterprise. We have stopped the subsidies of fertilizers since the beginning of this year. And so they're pretty much almost operating it on their own cost. The farms have grown from 14, we dropped to 8, some left. And then from then, at 8, it has now grown to 36 farmers. They have replicated their own farms and is now currently being replicated in a second village with 12 farmers. Impact, it has improved their nutrition. It has given them surplus income. We see them improving their houses. They're buying motorbikes for their children to school. And they're buying their own seeds and their own equipment. But best of all, it's given them restored back a hope and they're able to dream once again. Their farms are scaling up. And not only are they improving on their farms, that they're also, with the surplus incomes, they can now think about how to conserve their water catchment areas and conserve their forests as is needed in protecting the water catchment areas. So here it is. These are some of the produce. that has been grown over the years. At any one time, they probably produce 10 that are marketed. Now, coming back to the 5 dimensions that Dr. Ben was talking about, governance, edifying values, let me quickly bring you through the first one, governance. Does it favor social inclusion of the weak in the community? Yes, it does, because this farm actually gives the poor and the elderly spaces to farm. Many of them have their own land, but they do not have the technology, they don't have the seed capital, and they don't have the markets. And so, and even if they don't have if they're too old to work and clear their own land, they can work together with an existing farmer. And so they're given spaces to farm, and no minimum volume is demanded of them. So if they want to work a little, if they're capable of working 2-3 hours, that's fine. And then they will get paid according to their harvest and production. The facilities like water pumps, tractors, equipment are also shared for the common use of everyone. And so even if they cannot afford, they can use at a very minimal rent, or sometimes the farmers will do it free for them. Some of them, the poor, also are entitled to get loans as seed capital to start farms. The women actually constitute the majority of the farmers, and in the farm committee, 2 out of 5 are of the women, are women. At the same time, the idea is, at this point, they have agreed to put 2% of the surplus profits into a community fund that will be used as loans or seed capital and to help others and the community, but they haven't actualized enough profit to put 2% yet into a separate fund. In terms of democratic participation, leaders are democratically elected, but they work on a consensus basis. And on top of that, we also ask the village council to give oversight and advice to this farming enterprise. So major, for example, what happens if one like that? One of the things we saw as the farm was expanding, we needed to change this management system for bigger numbers. And we needed to specialize in crop planning. And we suggested, why don't we now specialize, do seeding, let it be done by a few people to specialize in that so that we can manage the crop planning better and the coordination. But 2 or 3 people said they were not agreeable, and so that didn't go ahead. So there is the strong bias towards consensus and not just by decision by the majority. Number 2, in terms of edifying values, Dr. Ben talks about it, highlights compassion as one of the edifying value, and of course mutual respect. Is there a social mission? I had a tough time answering this question. This is largely an oral tradition society, and writing things down is not very common for them. We haven't got anything written down, to be honest, but there is this concept that we talk about, fair businesses for a fair society. And so we are kind of using that as a means to always drive the conversation forward and in the shaping of this model. We're still evolving. We haven't got a full, complete, all the policies nailed down.
Onsen, your 15 minutes is up, but we'll give you a few more minutes to complete the...
Okay, sorry,
very good. Sorry about that.
Sorry, Dr. Manson, I didn't realize. Okay, very quickly.
Take a few more minutes. I think it's very good, the breakdown. I'm just letting you know.
Okay, thank you. Okay, people and planet before profits. Well, let me give you a few examples of people well-being is first. The work on the farm is flexible working hours, so they can decide if they want to work little or long. There's no minimal production, and there's also loans provided. Facilities are shared. Surplus of vegetables are given to the poor, and these are done more at an individual level. Farmers are rewarded according to the individual harvest as opposed to a communist way of sharing equally. In terms of whether it's planet before profits, there's the use of organic farming, green technology, And also now they saw that it's important to preserve their water catchment areas. Therefore, they are now setting up a committee, drawn up a map on how do you protect those water catchment area. And part of the 2% surplus would be used in terms of the forest conservation activities. In terms of advocacy, yes, they're organizing themselves to work with the state and federal agencies to promote this livelihood strategy to be promoted to other Orang Asli villages and to also expand it in their own community. So they are together with our NGO, we are in talks with the federal level as well as the state level to bring in the development budget support to improve their livelihoods through this approach. That's another picture of the farm. Okay, thirdly, social development. Does it create benefits? Yes, it's creating jobs for other farmers in the community. It's also creating jobs for other villages. That's giving the Orang Aslis themselves are beginning to train each other. And one of the good things is because now they realize there's a need to protect their farms together, there's a need to protect their water catchment areas together. It's a common interest that is now bringing the whole community together, strengthening unity and strengthening leadership. Let me now go to the fourth one in terms of ecological conservation. Yes, we don't use chemicals, no pesticides are used. 1 acre can sustain 4 families, where the traditional approach being used now is 6 acres of all palm trees to sustain 1 family. And in this, 1/4 of an acre can produce greater income than what 6 acres of all palm trees can provide for them. So it's, and also now they are, as a result of needing water, they are having to organize themselves to protect their water sources. Finally, economic sustainability. They, as I said, they capture 40% of the retail price, and the income double, triple, and some even quadruple to US 250 to 500 US dollars. And the idea is to link them directly with the end retailer and pass a higher portion of that profit to the producers. Currently, they are able to cover 90% of the operational costs. Realistically, they are not going to be able to cover the investment costs at this point. But where hopefully next month, they will be able to be totally sustainable as far as all farming costs is concerned. So, and okay, let me just quickly end with this. Another, we introduce them to markets, understand the markets. And these are some of the SDG goals that we are, we actually hit about 11 out of the 17 SDG goals through this social enterprise. Right.